is a very Melbourne-y kind of day out here. I was supposed this weekend to go to Bendigo, where I was going to go and visit all of the op shops there. Except I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, it's a 2-hour trip approximately to get there, and I have the worst headache in the world. So I'm going to try and cure that headache. How am I going to try and cure that headache? Well, to start with, I'm going to down a heap of coffee. Yes, I know, that probably will just make me nervous and anxious. I'm going to go to a coffee shop I went to quite a while ago where they have the Barista's Breakfast, which is a trio of coffees in 3 different styles, where those coffees are designed to demonstrate what the baristas are able to offer. What I like about it is they do an espresso, a pour over, and a latte. And it's so often the case that you don't get much in the way of pour over coffee. So getting a pour over coffee will be really lovely. And each time I've been there and done it, they've done a slightly different coffee, different roast, different types of beans. It's been excellent. We're also going to be visiting the Melbourne Museum, and I'm sure I will stop by some thrift stores along the way.
Ever wonder how much caffeine is too much caffeine?
Well, I feel like I'm going to be wondering that too, because
I'll be getting my Barista's Breakfast from St. Ali. It's a name that's practically legendary in Melbourne's specialty coffee scene, and they have many bold blends and are known for an expert roast. Last time the flavours were really heavy and nutty, so I'm looking to see what's changed in the meantime. The espresso was slightly astringent, not in a bad way, but it had a floral, almost fruity flavour to it. The pour over, on the other hand, had these delicious honey flavours. It was sweet, even though it was unsweetened. Lastly, the latte was an Ethiopian blend, a little bit fruity, a little bit nutty, fantastic to finish on. There may be more boutique stores, but St. Ali is always so consistently good. That's coffee number. My audio cut out there, so what I actually said was coffee number 3. Big surprise, you just saw it.
And I can definitely feel my hands start to shake, my chest start to pound a little bit. Stop in at the museum because I've been wanting to go there for a little while, and I feel like that's going to be a peaceful way to allow the caffeine to drain out of my system.
Which means walking through Carlton Gardens. Carlton Gardens is one of those places that makes you forget that you're in the middle of a city. The tree-lined paths and open lawns and the way the sunlight filters through the branches, it's all a very timeless garden design. Walking here, it was easy to slow down and take a breath and just enjoy the moment, in spite of the caffeine. This path leads straight towards the Royal Exhibition Building, and I think it's one of Melbourne's most stunning landmarks. It was built in 1880 as part of the international exhibition movement, and it's one of few exhibition buildings that survived to this day. It was also the first building in Australia to be awarded UNESCO World Heritage status. The building has a truly elegant sense of scale and design, which I really like, and it sits in front of the Melbourne Museum, which is a much newer building that was constructed over 120 years later. The Melbourne Museum itself is a cheap day out. It's not very expensive to get tickets, and if you're a concession card holder or a student, entry's free. And straight ahead as you come through admission, you'll see this expanse of green.
The Rainforest Gallery is an example of Australian rainforest that's been built here inside the Melbourne Museum. Even though it is an example of rainforest of itself, it has biomes, it has different areas that have been developed and included in this installation. On top of that, there is a whole raft of native animals here, mostly birds, some skinks, lizards, that sort of thing. And it's just so cool to be inside a building and be experiencing that.
As soon as you step through the glass, the air is cooler, and there's the scent of damp earth, the sound of running water, and it echoes through the space. It's quiet and reflective, and a strong reminder of the ecosystems that exist just beyond the city, and how easily they can be overlooked. I'm going to keep quiet for a minute, just so you can take it in.
That was very calming.
Heading down the escalator back towards the main hall, I could take a moment to appreciate the scale of the space I came from before making my way over to pose with the whale before heading on through to life sciences, because I, very importantly, had dinosaurs to see. It's hard not to feel a sense of awe when you're around the towering reconstructed skeletons of dinosaurs, especially when they're casting long shadows under display lights. There are fossils here, models, there are even some animatronics dotted around the place. Rounding a corner though, I was asked an important and unexpected question.
Not this one.
It turns out in the dinosaur exhibit, we have a visitor straight from Montana. As you walk down the entrance hall, a screen flickers against the wall and a Tyrannosaurus prowls down the display. And then you step into the main room. There it is, a Triceratops. It's dramatically lit and it highlights the sheer size of its skull, while the rest of the space around it stays in shadow. It's a stage, and this is the star of the show, and the museum knows it. Up close, the details are incredible, all the little cracks and features, and I think from above, it looks even more impressive.
As a kid, I loved dinosaurs. And even to this day, I still love dinosaurs. One of the things I really appreciate is how archaeology has changed over time and how our understanding has changed. I looked back at some of the old books to compare what we knew then versus what we know now, and even in the space of time between me being born and this being produced, it's just incredible how much has changed. Dinosaurs are great.
I include this one just for Gearworks. Here you go, a 3D diagram of a fish. And for someone who doesn't have a particular interest in trains, I sure spend a lot of time around them. Please spare your judgment, my body knows what it needs, and what it needs is more caffeine. Apparently.
As a side note, I'm getting really happy with my hair. It's not going to be too much longer and I'm going to be able to have it tied back. I used to have it down to past my shoulders, which means I'm probably going to need a trim soon. So as a man who doesn't understand hair care with long hair very well, could you please share some tips? I know I have to get my ends trimmed at some point, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to ask for. And I'm also terrified that I'll go to a barber and I'll be like, do this. And they'll just give me like a full-blown haircut, which is not what I want. If you have ideas, let me know.
Speaking of ideas, Melbourne's weather system had some ideas. They say if you don't like the weather in Melbourne, wait 15 minutes, it'll change. And honestly, that reminds me of Tasmania. So I took a trip to the Ferntree Gully Vinnies. Like many of the Vinnies op shops in Greater Melbourne, this one is immaculately organised and it is packed to the rafters with everything from homewares to clothing to art to everything in between. I will say this though, ArtQuest 2025 continues, because once again, there is nothing at all like what it is that I'm looking for. If and when that happens, there is going to be a monumental celebration, that is for certain. It feels odd to say, but the way the homewares were laid out in this store was just incredible. I loved it. There was a lot of care that went into it. The burbs did tempt me. I was prepared to be disappointed by the menswear section, but there were nearly as many racks as there were for the women's section, and the prices were fantastic. This Ben Sherman shirt might fit? It turns out it didn't. Maybe if I lost like 10 kilos or something. Oh well, what about option number 2? $6 for a YD shirt in my size, deal. Also, somewhat unusually, there was a large selection of shoes, handbags, and leather goods. But there was one thing in the store that truly blew me away. And it was this. I want to say trumpet, but I can't tell the difference between a trumpet and a coronet.
What?
The only thing here that was perhaps lacking was the contents of the cabinets. Fewer collectible items than I would have thought.
That Vinnies was great. The staff were friendly, lots of stuff, and not only, as you saw, lots of men's clothing, but also a variety of brands, including the Ben Sherman shirt. It's rare to come across a combination like that. That's really cool. And now I'm going around the corner to another one of those places where it's like a combination market where people buy stall space and then sell things. Normally these kinds of locations are overpriced, but who knows? Could be good in this case.
Market Fair markets itself, as a market-like location with over 300 stalls. And boy oh boy, is there a collection of different things here. I spent quite a bit of time looking at the vinyl because it would be nice to rebuild my collection. But also, the books here were immaculately organised, which meant that I knew for a fact they did not have a copy of Frank Herbert's Dune. There was unfortunately a certain element of things bought on Amazon that were being resold here, which is fine, you get a little bit of that everywhere. I remain magnetically attracted to old cameras.
I bought mine for $15 each. I have like 7 of those.
In the antique world and second-hand market, it's very easy to mistake age of a thing for value of a thing. And this is also creeping into the vintage camera market.
Look at this gentleman. Look at how he is standing.
I was stoked to spot some older game consoles.
Is that what Nintendo 64s go for now? Holy shit.
And quite the selection of games and old Game Boy accessories. There was a Game Boy Light that I saw just here in the centre. I used to have one of those.
Ugh. Oh, it is wet out there. So I was right. Expensive in general. It's weird to me seeing items that I've purchased in my lifetime showing up as collectibles or items that are now expensive. For example, the Nintendo 64s that were there were in what I would call average condition. And they were $200 each, not even taking into account the controllers and other bits and pieces that you need for them. The games were also equally expensive, which is crazy. I've got 3 Nintendo 64s and I don't think any of them are worth $200, but retail, I suppose, versus purchasing online or purchasing on Facebook Marketplace. It's an interesting location. It's a real mix of things. Seems a little bit more put together and organised than the place I went that other week. So with the weather like this, I was planning on going a bit further afield and doing some other things, but it's too wet. I'm soaked, even between getting from the car to the shop. So I'm gonna head home.
And head home I did. Although, I did manage to stop for a second or two at a park during a break in the rain.
Sorry, a little bit shorter video than I would normally like to produce, but it still meets my requirements of getting a video out each week. Let us continue on. We've nearly hit 900 subscribers on the channel, and 1,000 is the minimum to have a monetized YouTube channel, which is crazy to me. So thank you, all of you. Thank you very much. Hopefully next week, Bendigo. And I'll see you for that. Goodbye.
And just for the people who hang around past the black screen, in the park at Reservoir, there was this, an old steam engine.
As a fun little aside, as I'm standing in front of the Reservoir historic steam train, where I grew up, there was a steam train just like this in a park. And it was just open. Kids could just run in and pull levers and jump around in it and do different things. And I have some great childhood memories of doing that at the Burnie Park. If you've been there, let me know. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that wasn't such a great idea. Maybe it wasn't such a great idea to let the kids play on heavy machinery like that.